Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NetSuite's How-Tos presented by NEO3. Today we're going to talk about importing lists of leads, customers, and or prospects into NetSuite. Many of our customers attend trade shows where they will be presented with a very large list of people that they've talked to or just anybody that was registered for the trade show, and now they have to find its way back into NetSuite. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Many of the files that you may receive from these trade show producers would look like this. We have a first name, a last name, an email address, maybe a company name, maybe not, then address 1, 2, city, state, zip, country. This file usually comes from whoever they put on the trade show. And this could be thousands and thousands of records. And NetSuite does have limitations on file size. I think it's 10,000 for a customer. For other things, it might be 25,000. But in any case, you could just split the file in two and import them if it's beyond that count. One thing to note is that there are data pieces in here that require some attention. And the reason I use New Jersey is because the zip code starts with a 0, and it's 07728 in this particular record. If you save and open this file, you might lose that 0. So be very cognizant of that, and that would cause an error because 7728 is not a zip code, whereas 07728 is a zip code. This can be problematic with any data that starts with a 0, just something I thought I'd like to point out for you. Otherwise, this file looks good. We can move forward with it, and this is going to be a good import for us. And now we're in our NetSuite UI in our dashboard, and to access the import CSV area, you go to Setup, Import Export, and Import CSV Records. I'm logged in right now as a sales manager. All the sales roles have access to this. Like every role has access to this depending on what role you're in. You'll have different access to different files to import into, but everybody has access to Import Export. It may be in a different place depending on your role. You can always search in the global search to find it as well. So we're going to go ahead, start our import. First thing we do is pick the import type. In this case, we're looking at relationships. In NetSuite, customers, contacts, leads, prospects, they're all relationships. And today we're just going to do leads only. There's many relationships in NetSuite, but we only want leads. And we're going to take all the defaults and just pick our file here. And our file is leads from Celebrity Trade Show. We're going to select that and open it. Once we're comfortable with this screen, we go ahead and move forward using the next button. Now we're on the import options screen, and when you're importing into any record in NetSuite, it gives you the option to add. That means we're adding brand new records. We're updating. That means we're changing data on existing records, or we're adding or updating, which is a mix. For today's purposes, we're just going to add and click the next button to move on to the next step in the import process, which is the biggest and most important step. This is where we do our field mapping. Now don't worry, because field mapping isn't as crazy as you think it is. All we're doing is taking the fields, which are on the left here. These are the fields in your trade show CSV file, and we're mapping them to the fields on the right, which are the NetSuite fields on the record that we're importing into, and we're matching up so they go to the right place. Now NetSuite will match any fields with if their exact names match the column header in the top level area of the record. So it matched company name, email. We defaulted to a lead unqualified. If you want to make these qualified, you just click on the pencil, go ahead and change it to qualified, which we'll do. Click OK. Now all these leads will come in with the status of lead qualified for CRM purposes later on. It's also important to note that even though we're only bringing in like 10 or 11 fields over here, there are many fields that we can import into the NetSuite records. So as you can see on the right, every one of these blue little N icons represent a field in NetSuite. And if you have the data, you certainly can import into it. So just FYI on that. But our mission here today is to make sure that all the fields in the trade show CSV get properly imported into NetSuite. As you can see, we have 4 green checkboxes here, but we really need them all to be checkboxes. So let's go ahead and start that process. First, you notice that there's an empty field here, and we have to deal with that. NetSuite wants to know, so you see REQ here, that means it's a required field. So any required fields must be filled out. Now this is not an importable field. This is, well, technically is, but we usually just set this because we're deciding whether or not this is going to be an individual or a company. In this case, typically from trade shows, we usually create it as an individual to begin with. And then later on, when we convert it to a prospect or a customer, we can make it a company with multiple contacts. We're going to go ahead and select yes in this field here to bring all the contacts in as leads, as individuals, so that we can work with them on an individual basis until we're ready to make them a company. So click OK there. Our next step is to address the address, which we haven't imported yet. So we have to find those records on the right. And here we are, lead address and lead address 1. So now we just drag and drop these fields over into the right side, and then we'll bring them from the left side and match them up. So this is the mapping area here. Wait, this is saying, hey, if you bring in address 1, there's other fields that have to come over, and that's going to be your country. That's required. See, REQ is a required field. And then we have address 2 that we have to map to. And then we have city. Scroll down here. We have state. And we have zip. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Address 1, address 2, city, state. Whoop. Oh, I put the country in the wrong place. We got to put country. So here's a teaching moment. If you happen to drag the wrong thing over, you could bring it over and drop it on top and reset it. So no harm, no foul. So we have address 1 mapped to address 1. We have country mapped to country. Now we got to get address 2 in there where I put city. We're going to put address 2 in there. Now we can put city against the right city, and we'll put zip against the zip. And now we have all our green check boxes here. We can just go through and look, see what we got. And you'll notice that email attached automatically too. So it looks like a good import. So we're good to go from here. When all the fields are mapped, you just click next. It'll take you to the final screen where we're going to name this import, and we're going to call it Trade Show Leads. And you can put a description in here if you want. The ID gets set automatically. And then when you're ready, click Save and Run. The next screen that appears is the confirmation that the import started and a link to the import job status so we can see how the import is going. So the import at 9:19 is complete. We got 404 records imported perfectly. So now we know that our data is inside the system. Now let's go ahead and see if we could find a piece of data that we brought in. One thing we brought in was Springsteen. Let's see if we find that. There's Bruce Springsteen as the lead in the E Street Band. We're going to go ahead and select that. There it is. Got all the information, his email address. And we'll probably have some address information down here. So all that came in very nicely as a company name. Now we can eventually convert this to a prospect and then a customer, or do all the CRM functions we need to as a result of this being in here now. So that's how you import customers / leads / prospects. It's the same process, really. You just have to select a different entity that you're importing into. Thank you for your time today. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, please reply to the email that was sent out or send a note to info@neo3.com, and we'll try to accommodate any requests for future tutorials. Thank you so much and have a great day.